in this video, what is the best luggage setup for a digital nomad? You want to be a digital nomad, you want to travel the world, maybe you don't even identify as digital nomad, but more as like a traveler, but you're just curious, what is the most ideal travel setup? And I'm going to tell you right now that the ideal travel setup is carry-on only. If you can't do carry-on only and you need to check a gigantic suitcase that looks like a coffin, maybe just click off this video now. Or maybe don't, because I'm here to save you. But bottom line is carry-on only luggage is a must. And now that we've agreed on that, really the only question is, what is the ideal carry-on luggage setup? Is it a backpack and a piece of luggage? Like what's the best thing? So we'll get into that. So let's define what is carry-on luggage, because I know it's a little bit different. So in the US, you're allowed two pieces. You're allowed a personal item and a carry-on luggage. And I guess it kind of goes by various names, but by carry-on luggage, what I'm referring to is typically a hardshell roller suitcase. It's not a full-size suitcase in the traditional sense. It's I guess a medium-sized or small-sized suitcase that goes kind of around to your kneecap, roughly, right? But in any case, if you were to just Google carry-on suitcase, carry-on luggage, or put it on Amazon, carry-on suitcase, carry-on luggage, you know what's going to come up. It's that kind of hard shell luggage. Often it's like bright colors, bright red and stuff like that. So that's the piece, right? And so in the US, you get two pieces. You get the personal item and you get the carry-on size luggage. And the dimensions, worth talking about the dimensions. The dimensions do vary slightly based on airlines in the States, but it has a pretty uniform, like uniform length, width, and height across all airlines. They vary slightly by like 1 inch, like, oh, can it be 11 inches depth or like 12 inches depth? But it's all like basically the same. And in my experience, as long as it's like basically in the ballpark, then all the airlines will accept it. Where things do get tricky is internationally, it's a little bit different. In Europe, famously Ryanair and Vueling and these discount airlines have one price for just one piece of luggage, which is like one personal item. And if you want to have that, what I call carry-on, but you could call like the small hard shell luggage, then that has an additional cost to it. It's not that much, might be like an extra $50 or something, but worth noting that that does have an additional cost. And so sort of in Europe and in Asia and even some Latin American airlines, they might think of carry-on as being just one piece, one personal item, which would typically be a backpack or a large purse. And then I guess kind of U.S. airlines are leading the way in saying that carry-on is two pieces. And then I think a lot of Latin American airlines have sort of taken their cue from the American airlines, and they've said that, okay, carry-on is two pieces. Like, for example, for Aeromexico, they would say that carry-on is two pieces and so forth. So what I typically do is I always travel with two pieces for the most part. Traveling with just a backpack is very hard to do, especially a backpack that would fit the Ryanair requirements. I know that some people try to kind of get away with the 60-liter or like some big 45-liter thing on Ryanair and say, oh, I just have one piece. This is my personal item, even though it's like clearly oversized, but it kind of works But for me, um, I have no problem when I'm in Europe just paying that extra $50 and having two pieces and just having a consistent setup. So when I'm in the USA, Canada, anywhere in Latin America, anywhere in Europe, um, across those three continents, or two continents, depending on who you ask, um, I'm using consistently the same setup. And so what I'm using is I'm using a normal sized backpack. This is roughly a 25 to 30 liter backpack. And I'm using the Hardshell Rolly carry-on luggage that I've talked about. I'm not going to name brands for either the backpack or the piece of luggage because honestly, I've typically just used like some cheap thing that I got off Amazon and they hold up reasonably well. You know, the backpack's going to cost less than $100. The Hardshell luggage is going to cost less than $100, so you get your whole sort of travel setup for less than $200. Now, I have tried some of these more expensive digital nomad backpacks. Specifically, I had a Minal backpack, Minaal. It was like a $300, 300 US backpack. And it was okay, but it actually didn't have enough pockets and honestly just wasn't my favorite backpack overall, and ended up switching that out for a random Amazon backpack that had more pockets and stuff. So I honestly gave away a $300 backpack to one of my siblings, and now I just use a random, $70 Amazon backpack. And I've gone through various iterations. Like I've probably gone through like 4 or 5 backpacks, just sort of trying them out. And if I don't like them, I'll just give them away. Like it's not a big deal to give away a $70 backpack. And it's honestly a pretty good gift because people always have a use for a backpack. But that's what I do. I basically just have a backpack with a lot of pockets that more or less fits the personal item requirements, and then the Hardshell carry-on luggage thing. Now, the Hardshell carry-on luggage, let's talk about that one first in terms of the dimensions. So I find that airlines are more strict about the dimensions of the hardshell carry-on luggage. I say hardshell just so you can picture it. Obviously, it could be like a soft shell one, and there are ones that look like they're made of like cotton, polyester, whatever. You really don't want that. You really, really don't want that. You really want your carry-on piece, your luggage piece, to be a hard shell. And there's a couple of reasons for that. I think it's a little bit more waterproof. It's not fully waterproof, but it's certainly more waterproof than those soft shell ones. And then just like kind of the banging around in the airport, on the plane, and so forth. There's you just never want those soft, rolly luggage ones. And I've had them in the past. I've seen them in the past. I've seen other people with them. They have like a zippered outer pocket and stuff, or even like a couple zippered outer pockets. I think you guys know what I'm talking about. Where it's kind of those like rolly luggages, and they have some outer zippers and that kind of thing. You really don't want that. You absolutely want to get a hard shell. Screw the outer zippers. You don't need it. Just get a hard shell. It's better in basically every conceivable way. So maybe that probably is worth mentioning because people show up with the weirdest luggage ever. So you definitely do not want a soft shell. You really want that hard shell piece of luggage, that hard shell rolly luggage. And I guess as I was saying, so the dimensions, I think they pay more attention to the dimensions on that suitcase. Yeah, that's the word I'm looking for. So they pay more attention to the dimensions on the suitcase and say, look, like it really can't be like too thick or too high or too wide. Like it really needs to kind of be in the dimensions. But I think like all the carry-on suitcases on Amazon, and the ones that you find online, if you're specifically typing in the word carry-on, they're going to be pretty much good for all the airlines. And then But I find that when it comes to the personal item, they give more leeway in terms of the size. And I think the reason for that is the suitcase really needs to fit up above in the plane. It really needs to fit in the what's it called, the overhead storage. So that's why there are more sticklers about the suitcase, is because the suitcase needs to fit in the overhead storage. But the idea is that the personal item is going under your seat. So as long as it's reasonably obvious that it can fit under your seat, then it should be good. But I find that they give more leeway, and you've probably seen this if you're a traveler or you've talked to people. You've probably found that with this personal item that people are getting away with like enormous backpacks, as I've mentioned. People are getting away with these like gigantic 45 and 60 liter backpacks from, what is that company? But there's a couple famous companies, right? I highly recommend you do not use a 45 or 60 liter backpack for your personal item. Not only because it's obviously oversized, but also if you were to truly fill it, it would be a lot of weight on your back to the point of giving you back pain and damaging your back. So I really think that the 25, 30 liter backpacks are the sweet spot. It's the most ideal, not only in terms of getting away with it, quote unquote, as your personal item, but even like a 30 liter backpack that's fully full is already insanely heavy and is already going to be a lot of strain on your back. So anything over 30 liters, like 45 liters, that's overkill in terms of the strain on your back. Even 30 liters really is a lot of strain on your back. So you want to get a reasonable sized backpack, a normal sized backpack, basically like a normal like high school kid's backpack. That's all you need. You just need a high school kid's backpack and a hardshell carry-on sized rolly suitcase. And I truly believe that that's the ideal setup. At one point, I did travel with, there's this brand called Timbuktu, and they make these like laptop bags, and it's like over one shoulder, almost like you're delivering newspapers, like one of those laptop bags. And I traveled with one of those for a while because, they said like, oh, it's waterproof and it's big and, fits more than just the laptop. You can fit more stuff in it. And I did that, but the problem was when you fill it up, it's a lot of weight on just one shoulder, and I found that it gave me a lot more back pain than a backpack would. So when you have these like sling shoulder bags, laptop shoulder bags, it's a lot of weight, and the weight's not, when it's a lot of weight, the weight is just not well distributed, and it's just not the most efficient setup by any means. I did it for a while, but it just isn't the most efficient setup. So really the most efficient personal item is by far the traditional backpack, the high school kid's backpack. That's the epitome of travel, baby, is just having a high school kid's backpack, basically. Tons of pockets for the passport, pockets for the wallet, pocket for the laptop, obviously, that should go without saying. Maybe I'll do a dedicated video in terms of like what you should look for in a backpack or something, but should be obvious. The laptop goes in the backpack, and then just have, a little bit of compartments and stuff, and hopefully the bag's pretty lightweight. So, I guess just to wrap up the video, the ideal setup is a normal 25 to 30 liter backpack, basically a high school kid's backpack, and then a carry-on sized hard shell suitcase. You can get each of these items for less than $100 on Amazon. So you'll be a professional digital nomad with less than $200 invested on Amazon, and you'll be ready to conquer the world. So hopefully this video was helpful. My Latin life, another travel tip. Thanks for watching.